Good afternoon. I'm very pleased to introduce our speaker today, Professor Dan Shechtman. We all know that he won the Nobel Prize in 2011, and we're all very proud of that. But even before that, Danny was a legendary figure in scientific circles for his discovery of a new type of solid matter that has come to be known as a quasicrystal. His discovery ignited a storm of controversy in which Danny was the lightning rod. It inspired scientific research all over the world, and in all modesty, I can say that some of the best of that research was done and continues to be done here at the Ames Laboratory. Nowadays, Danny travels extensively, meeting with everyone from heads of state to kindergartners. But when he isn't traveling, he splits his professional life as professor of material science and engineering between two institutions. One is the Technion, the Israel Institute of Technology, where Danny has held an appointment for all of his professional career. The second is Iowa State University and Ames Laboratory, where he has held an appointment since 2004. We are honored to have him as a member of our community. Please welcome our speaker, Professor Dan Shechtman.
Thank you, Pat, for your introduction. I'm really pleased to be here, and I see that the size of this hall is just right for everybody to sit, and almost no empty spaces. So my talk today is not about quasi-periodic materials, but rather about technological entrepreneurship. And I like to talk about technological entrepreneurship around the world because I think it's important for the well-being of the world. Let me give you a brief introduction to what's happening in the world today, and then I will explain why technological entrepreneurship is so important. If you look at the world today, you see several facts which are surprising. For instance, the world, you'll be surprised at what I'm saying, the world is now at peace. There is no cross-boundary war in the world, not one. There are tensions, but not one cross-boundary war. That's the good news. The bad news is there are many tribal wars. Tribes within countries fight each other. The reasons are several. One is that many countries are artificial creations that were created by colonialism of England and of Germany and Holland and Portugal and Spain, you name it. When they left an agglomeration of tribes that do not really like each other. Now, if the economic situation is fine, then everybody lives more or less in peace with each other. But if it's bad, then they start to fight for resources, natural resources, and that's the bad news. And the wars today, the tribal wars today, are horrible. Syria is leading, and there are many other tribal wars around the world. Fact number 2 is the following. There was a worry for many years that the world population will grow in such a pace that there will not be enough food for everybody. Well, let me tell you what's happening. The rate in which the population of the world grows is declining continuously. So the first derivative of the growth is declining. So much so that it is expected that in 2050 it will be zero. The world population will not grow anymore, and there will be food for everybody. That is the good news. The bad news is that the decline in population growth is not evenly distributed around the world. And it is the developed countries in which the population growth is negative. What does it mean? Let me give you an example. Take, for instance, Singapore. Singapore is a wonderful country, very small in the Far East, and their GDP per capita is close to $60,000. That's by far more than in the United States. The number of children per woman in Singapore is 0.78, 0.8. Let's say it is one child per woman. That means that every generation, the population will be half of the previous generation, and half again, and half again. And where are these people? These people will disappear. The country will be filled by people from China probably, but these people will disappear. This happens in Europe, where the more or less average number of children per woman is 1.5. In the United States, it's about 2. Not enough, but just right. These are the civilized, developed countries. These are the countries that can feed the populations. What happens in Africa? In Africa, Central Africa, there's a belt, Central Africa, in which the number of children per woman is very high. Example, the country of Niger, number of children per woman is 7.5 on the average. You can imagine what's going on. These are countries that can barely feed their population. So, hunger and tribal wars bring several bad results. One of the results is that waves of refugees start to march to the more developed countries. And it already started. There are waves of refugees fleeing from war zones and from hunger and moving towards the more developed countries. I can tell you that in Syria, in which the troubles are now, the number of refugees is 2 million people, 2 million displaced people of a population of about 17 million. 1 million moved from one region to another region within Syria. Another million moved to Turkey and Jordan. They fled the country. Bad news. So refugees. How can we correct that situation in our world? My proposal is technological entrepreneurship, and this is the subject of my talk. So what is technological entrepreneurship? Here is the definition. There are many detailed, complex definitions. You can look it up in Google or whatever you want. But I've chosen the most simple one and the shortest one. So, entrepreneurship, technological entrepreneurship, is establishment of new technology venture. That's it. It's establishment. You have to do it. You have to make it. It has to be new. It has to be technology, and it is a venture. You may succeed. You may fail. Most fail, but some succeed. Who has a chance to succeed? Those people, of course, who choose the right subject to work on and know how to do that. And it is the know-how which is so important. And this is why I teach a class that I will tell you later about. So why is technological entrepreneurship important for the well-being of societies, countries, and the world? This is because countries that will develop technological entrepreneurship will have a chance to make products and sell them, export them, bring enough wealth to feed everybody in the beginning, and later on everybody will do better than just get food. Now, when I say technological entrepreneurship, it means software, but it mainly means making products. And I'm saying that in the United States because here we need to make products and not give the other countries to make the products for us. We need to thrive to make products, sophisticated products and so on. Let's continue. So building sustainable economy requires development of human ingenuity. Now, so what is needed for that? There are several steps that are necessary, several stages that are necessary in order to create an entrepreneurial spirit in a country. Remember the word spirit, entrepreneurial spirit in a country. It is essential. So first, good education for all. Everybody has to be educated. Now, in most countries in the world, there is a law that tells you the following. The government is obliged to supply, to provide basic education for all. What is basic education? Depends on the country. In Israel, it's from age 3 to 18. In other countries, more or less. Some countries you have free university studies. Other countries can provide basic studies only in primary school. Depends on the country. But basic education must be there as a foundation. What's next? Next is good engineering and science education. Good engineering and science education, this is because it is the scientists and engineers that open the startups. So we need good engineering and science. Now, the third is government policy and support. Governments have roles. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm not for too much involvement of government in business, but governments can support the growth of new businesses, and I'll give you an example what governments can do about it. I'm talking about state governments, maybe city government, state government, federal government. All of them can help. Stage 2. Stage 3, we need free market economy. Now, in the United States, we have free market economy. It's not a question. But not all over the world we have free market economy. So a country that wants to develop technological entrepreneurship that will be successful will need free market economy. Last but not least is no corruption. Corrupt countries will never grow. They will not allow technological entrepreneurship. It's the big corporations that are supported by the government. There is a government business link which is like that, and new developments, new startups cannot grow in a corrupt societies. And there are many countries in the world, I'm not talking about the United States, of course, there are many countries in the world that are corrupt. And you look at these countries and you see what happens to the population there, they don't have a chance. They have to get rid of that, of the corruption. It's a long process, but they have to do that. But even if you have all these requirements set, and you have basic education, engineering education, and so on and so forth, and no corruption, that's not enough. Also needed is development of entrepreneurial spirit and knowledge. You have to develop entrepreneurial spirit and knowledge in order for people to start working and developing startups. So, some people say that in order to become a successful entrepreneur, one has to be born with it. If you are born into a family that are entrepreneurial, then you absorb the spirit of entrepreneurship at home and you become entrepreneur. And it is true that it has an effect, but not necessarily so, because while it is true that home environment can affect ideas, mentality, and self-efficacy, self-efficacy is your ability to trust that you will be successful in what you are doing. Self-efficacy, it is also true that a proper teaching can direct attention to worthy subjects, and good mentor, remember the word mentor, can inspire enthusiastic followers. So can we teach technological entrepreneurship? Yes, we can, and we should. So who teaches technological entrepreneurship today? Now, if you go to Ivy League universities in the United States, as an example, and you ask them, do you teach technological entrepreneurship? All of them will tell you, of course. We have wonderful classes and MBA programs. Well, what do they teach? In most universities in the United States, they teach startup management. So you can get an MBA and manage and learn how to be a very good startup manager. But these people who have background of lawyers and accountants and so on, these are not the people who open startups. They are the people who will manage very well startups when the startups are there. We, and in Iowa State University, which is basically a technical university, we should educate the engineers and scientists amongst you how to open startups, and let other universities, maybe also Iowa State, develop managers. But first we have to develop the people that will open the startups. Okay. So, they teach startup management in an MBA program. The problem is, MBA startup managers do not usually open new high-tech startups. So who opens startups? It is the engineers, biologists, MDs, scientists, and computer science experts that start new high-tech companies. And these are the people we should cater to when we want to teach them technological entrepreneurship. So who should teach technological entrepreneurship in a country that wants to develop that? Number one, in addition to teaching startup management, it's also a good idea to motivate and teach future entrepreneurs how to open successful startup. And future entrepreneurs are students, as I said, of engineering, biology, physics, chemistry, computer science, MD, doctors open new startups too. I mean physicians. So universities should expose and motivate these students to consider opening high-tech business of their own. So whom and where should we teach? So number one, youth in high school. Start early. I think that starting early is the best way to attract attention to a worthy subject. So high schools. And I know that around the world there are many programs in which children at high school level are taught entrepreneurship, and the schools try to introduce the spirit of entrepreneurship to these children. They also make a project in school, something that they have to design, think about, design, make, physically make, and sell. Go through the process in high school. And I know that in Israel there are many, many such activities all around the country. So this should be done at an early stage. Next, of course, universities. Like I was at universities, teach the engineers, the scientists, the MDs, how to open a startup and infect them with the bug of entrepreneurship. This is the main crowd. And this is a short way, because they already have the basic education. Now they're engineers. Now they have to be educated how to become entrepreneurs. Last but not least, don't forget the technicians. These are the people with good hands, and in Iowa we have many of them that can make things on the lathe. They can build a shop and produce products that they may design or they may make and sell. Also cater to these people. Teach them how to do that in vocational schools or whatever. So let me tell you now what I did at the Technion, my university in Israel. And I tell that to everybody who is willing to listen around the world, and I have many, many trips around the world, and I encourage people to copy what I do. And let me give you some background. All my degrees are from the Technion in Haifa in Israel. When I was a student of mechanical engineering, my bachelor's was mechanical engineering, the Technion spirit was something like that. They told us, not in words, but in deed, you will be so good, you, the student, will be so good, that when you graduate, everybody will want to hire you. And I said, what if I want to open my own technology business? The Technion did not teach me how to do that. We learn how to calculate, we learn how to make, we learn how to design. Very good school. While they didn't teach us how to open a startup. So when in 1986, I became a full professor. So I completed the promotion series. And I said, okay, now I can do whatever I want. And I opened a class at the Technion. It met with opposition. Mostly everything I do meets with opposition. And it's fun to overcome some obstacles. Nothing goes smoothly. Overcoming obstacles is fun, for me at least. And let me tell you how I started it, because it's interesting. I designed the class, and I will give you the details of how it works. And I said, I want to talk to the would-be entrepreneurs. But who are they? It hasn't written here, I'm going to be an entrepreneur. So I wanted to expose as many students as possible to the spirit of entrepreneurship, and those who will catch the disease of entrepreneurship will become entrepreneurs, but I needed large crowds. Now, as you well know, being students and professor in university, if you open a new class in university, then these are 5 lines in university catalog, and you have 1,000 classes, and this is just class number 374. Who knows about it? There's no way at least not at the Technion, to advertise new classes. But here I am, trying to teach entrepreneurship to people. I should be an entrepreneur, right? I called the head of the student union to my office. I said, I want to talk to you. And he came and I said, what can I do for you? And I said, I am opening this class of technological entrepreneurship, and it is designed to have as many students as possible. I want to export as many students as possible. He said, yes, and what can I do for you? I said, you have your weekly magazine, like in Iowa State Daily, there it's 1 week. I want you to advertise my class, because this class is for you, for your future, unlike any other class at the Technion, which is, of course, wrong to use good words. But he said, wonderful, I'll do that. And he asked me, what do you want me to write in the ad? I said, you will decide, you know the students. He comes back next day and he showed me the centerfold, the center page of this magazine. It's like that. It looks like the size of Iowa State Daily. And the centerfold says, you want to become an entrepreneur? You don't know how? Come to this class. And I said, wonderful. The whole page? He said, yeah, whole page. Great. I thought that he would do it for 1 week. He did it the whole summer, every week. The whole summer, the center page was there. So you can imagine that when the semester started, there were 600 people registered to the class. And that is because the hall that I was using was the largest at the Technion, had 600 seats. So I couldn't register anymore. The system was blocked. But many more students wanted to listen, so they came and sat on the stairs, and it was totally unsafe, but it was great fun. So this is the way I started the class. Let me tell you another anecdote, because you see, life is not so easy. The chair, I didn't do it through my department. I did it through another department, which politically I thought is good to do it through. Every student at the Technion has to take 10 credit points of non-engineering subjects. Chinese literature of the 17th century, the story of the samurais in Japan, the lyrics of Scandinavia, or the music of Beethoven, or whatever you want. There are many, many subjects. And the teachers are teachers that I hired. They're not employed by the university. I hired to give this class. Right? It's very cheap for the university to do it this way, as some of you know. So after 2 years that I taught this class, the chair of the department changed. This was the Department of General Study. He changed. There came another one. And the first thing he did, he called me and said, I don't want your class. Forget it. Don't teach that. I said, why? Everybody likes this class. I have 600 students in my class. He said, it's not academic. Well, I said, but it's very useful, and it is academic. We had some arguments, and so eventually I picked up the phone and called the provost of the university and told him, take him off my back. And the next day, I'd never heard from him again. So, why did he not like my class? Can you imagine why? Because every other class was 30 students. And when I teach 600 students, he has to fire 20 teachers, which is the strength or the number of teachers that he uses. Go figure. Anyway, so enough of these stories. So how does it work? So 1986, over the last 27 years, now I will start the 28th year. I've conducted a technological entrepreneurship class at the Technion. So how does it work? Number one, it's open to all Technion students. Everybody can register. Undergraduates, all undergraduates, from all departments. There are between 300 to 600 students in the class, depending on the hall that I use. Sometimes I use 600, sometimes I use the 300 hall. And all lectures are given by invited speakers. I'll tell you about that. And these are successful entrepreneurs. They are divided into 3 categories. The first category is successful entrepreneurs, all of them from Israel. New startup entrepreneurs and professionals. Let me elaborate a little bit on this. So, successful entrepreneurs, new startup entrepreneurs, and professionals. So, who are these people? The successful entrepreneurs are just that these are, all of them are people that started bootstrapping. Not people that inherited wealth. People that started from zero. Why so? Because I want the students to identify with them. The students usually don't have anything, and I want to show them that even if you don't have anything, you can start something, and you can succeed like these people. And these people, as an anecdote, I like to tell anecdotes. When I started the class, the president of the Technion gave me $5,000 on the side to compensate them if they take taxi or, they come, if they need a hotel or something. But when they started to come with their private helicopters, I understood that that's not necessary to compensate them. In fact, many of them proposed to sponsor my class, and I never took any money because I didn't need anything. Okay, so the second group of people are the people that fight now. People who started their startup 2 years ago, 5 years ago, they're not there yet, but they're alive, which is important, and they have problems, and they have overcame some of their problems, and they tell the student how it is. These are young people. The student can identify with them because they are young like them. And many of them are Technion graduates. These are people that graduated from Technion in the last 10 years or even less than that. So this is the second group. And the last group are the professionals. What does it mean? Give you examples. I bring a lawyer that tells the students what is a limited company, why you should register a limited company and not take the responsibility on your narrow financial shoulders. I bring the patent officer of the country to talk about patent law. What protection does it give you? What does it really mean? Where do you register a patent? Be it a provisional in the United States, be it locally in Israel, be it in the Far East, where to register, how to register, and so on, and how much it costs. Very expensive. Another person is somebody that talks about market survey. Why you should do a market survey before you start your business. You have to know where is such product being made. Can you compete in that market? So you should know your market very well, and this is why we need to know about market survey. Another one is somebody that talks about marketing. Now, marketing for engineers is something that sounds strange. Engineer feels that I can design anything, and this product is so wonderful that everybody will want to buy it. For instance, I can design a new fax machine that has 50 functions, and nobody makes that in the world. Well, let me tell you something. The secretary can use only 2 functions of the fax machine, and the boss can use only 1. So your product, the market people in your company will tell you, we cannot sell your product. Even if it's at the same price, we cannot sell it because it's useless. We know that you are a giant engineer and you can design anything. Yes, we know, but we cannot sell that. So for the students of engineering, it's wow, really? Is that the case? Yeah, really, it is the case. So these are the professionals. Let's continue. So during the lecture, each student summarizes the lecture on a form. They have to download it from the internet. It's a standard form, and they have to write a summary of the lecture on a page. As they leave the hall, they give it to me, they put it in a box, and that's it. The reports are collected at the end of the lecture. Attendance is mandatory. This is not so at the Technion. You don't have to go to lecture. You have to come to exercises, and you have to come to the exam, but you don't have to attend lectures at the Technion. But here in my class, it is mandatory, and there is no final exam, just the reports. And if you gave me 10 reports, semester is 14 lectures at the Technion. If you gave me 10 reports, you have a pass grade. If you didn't, fail. That's it. Very simple. Why so? Because all I want is exposure. Okay? I'm not going to give them exams. What did you learn? And we don't want any of that. Besides, the 600 students, who is going to work on that? No. I'm also a human, you know. So an invited speaker entrepreneur should provide tips, should tell stories. Students and everybody else, they like stories. They learn from stories. And entrepreneurs have fantastic stories, how they started and how fortune took them into where they are now. Fantastic stories. Okay? And give advice from his or her experience, men, women. The invited speakers are men and women from the industry. Okay, these entrepreneurs are role models. Remember the word, role models. Somebody to look up to and to follow. We need role models. We need people that the students say, I want to be like him. This is my role model. I aspire to be like him or her. Okay? Role models to follow. If the audience can identify with the speaker, can believe that they can follow his or her footsteps and become a successful story, we have achieved our goal. This is what I want. So what can an experienced invited speaker talk about? He can talk about how he or she started, and they have fascinating stories how they started. It's wonderful. Difficulties he faced and ways he overcame them. He and she, he's always, I say he, but I mean both. What were the financial resources? How he found proper partners? And how he found customers? And what is the company culture? Don't knock it. Company culture is very important. Let me tell you a story about company culture. There's a very successful company in Israel that design and makes chips and for printers and such, office printers. And the owners, the people that created it, give talks in my class. They tell me the following story. One day, we have discovered in our tests that a series of chips that we have made and sold to printing machines companies in the world, one of our chips has a defect in it. We did not, in the software. We didn't receive any complaints. We discovered it in our laboratory. And the question now, what do you do? You can just ignore it. If somebody complains, we'll solve his problem. Or you can tell the companies, your chip is flawed. We corrected it already, but this series is flawed. And this series is now in computers in offices around the world. The outcome may be that company that makes printers will not trust you anymore. They will say you're not a reliable supplier. We are not going to call all these printers. It cannot be done. We don't know who these people are. So what do? They decided, and this is part of a company culture, to tell the companies, whatever the outcome. They called the companies who bought the chip and said, we have a defect, we have corrected it, but we need you to know that so many thousands of printers that you have sent, maybe hundreds of thousands, have a potential problem in them. And they hope for the best. And you know what? They did well. They did well. Companies appreciated it and said, thank you very much, we appreciate it. Don't do it again. Right? Nobody disconnected from them. This is it's a bold decision that you have to take because it's not clear what the outcome will be. But this is part of a company culture. Treating your employees, what is the relationship between management and employees is a company culture, and so on and so forth. And company culture around the world are different. And companies' strategics are different. Look at what happens in the United States. Look at a company like Intel. If Intel decide to diverse, they will, instead of chips for computers and so on only, they will do it also for cell phones, or something like that. I don't know what they do, but they will diverse a little bit. It's still chips, it's still software, it's still hardware, but look at the Far East. Look at a company like Mitsubishi or Samsung. Let's look at Samsung. Samsung, you know what Samsung makes? Yeah, they make cell phones, right? You know that. You know that Samsung makes ships? You need a ship? Yeah, they will sell. How many ships do you need? They don't make any. You need a hospital? They own hospital. You need an insurance company? Yeah, they have insurance company. They will do any business, anything that can bring money, they will do. Different cultures between such giants. Both are successful, but the strategy is different. So company culture is very important. Okay, let's continue. Motivation, remember this word. The motivation, when you open a startup, the motivation should be the successful of the startup itself, not money. Money is a byproduct of a successful business. This is very important. You should work on your startup. And if you are successful, everybody will be happy and your pockets will be full. And that of IRS will also be full. Okay. Mistakes that lead to failure of startups. We tell them what are the mistakes that may lead to a failure of a startup. Number one, non-professional management by the technological entrepreneur. So you are a wonderful engineer, and you have designed a wonderful product, and you have made it, and now you've started to sell it, and at a certain point, the best thing for you is to hire somebody that has an MBA in startup management. Don't do it yourself, because beyond a certain size, you should be the CTO, Chief Technical Officer. Yes, do that. Continue to develop product. Don't run the company. At a certain stage, if you continue to run the company, only very few succeed in doing that. Many companies, young companies, fail because the entrepreneur says, I am the manager. I invented it, I made it. Don't do that. Insufficient market survey and lack of market knowledge. If you are not an expert in your field, don't even start. You have to learn the market very well. You have to know where things are made, how much they charge for them, what is their technology, what's special about your technology that they don't have. You have to know the market. And market survey is the beginning. Wrong money sources. Not all money is the same. Definitely not. You want to get money with added value. And I'll give you a list of where to take money and where not. This is what we tell our students. Partnering with friends rather than professionals. So there are three guys drinking beer in the bar here in Ames on Welch, and said, hey, one said, I have this wonderful idea, let's do something about it. And say, yeah, wonderful, let's go together and build a company. Usually it doesn't work this way. Pick your partners according to their potential contribution to the company. That means if you are a technology person, get somebody who knows something about marketing. And get somebody who knows something about management. You need to create a team of professionals, not a team of observers that will look at you and say, oh, how wonderful it is. No. You want everybody to contribute to a major field. Marketing, management, technology. Build a team. Don't just do it with friends, because in most cases you don't fit. Ego-driven entrepreneurship, I know best. I don't take any advice from anybody. See what the product I made. Not good. Be humble. Be humble as a scientist. Be humble as an entrepreneur. Listen to other people's advice. Sort them out. You don't have to agree, but you have to sort them out. Okay. And bad contracts among founders. Here's the advice. If you open a company on your own, just you, then you go to the office, I don't know, in Nevada or somewhere, and you fill in a form and pay, I don't know, $50 or whatever, and you have a company. That's it. Start working. But if you have partners, go to the best lawyer in town, pay him a lot of money for him to write a very good contract between you and your partners. If something goes wrong in the future, or if something goes very well in the future, in both cases, the partners may not agree on things, And the question is, what do you do now? Plan ahead. Have a very good contract. This is our advice. Cultural consideration. Now, when I give this talk in many countries, I know that I talk to different types of people. And I know that I come from a society in which fear of failure almost does not exist. Israelis are different. They will try once. If they fail, they will try the second time. And if they fail, they will try the third time. We encourage that. This is wonderful. If you failed in a company, you have a scar. I trust you more than a rookie, more than somebody who's just starting, because you have been through the process. And you will not make the same mistake again. You are an experienced entrepreneur. You saved a few years of fighting. You know where the stepping stones are. You know where the stumbling blocks are. Huh? Failure is okay. We don't encourage it, of course, but failure is okay. There are cultures in which failure is a shame on you, shame on your family, shame on your city, shame on your country. I don't take any risk. I don't want any of that, people will tell me. That has to change. If you want to succeed as a country in building up entrepreneurship and entrepreneurial spirit, you should tell the people that failure is okay. It will not be a shame on you or on your family or on everybody else. You failed, we understand, start again. We need to change that. And it's very difficult because it's a culture of some country. What can governments do? Governments can open incubators. When I say government, it can be city government, state government, federal government, any government. They can open incubators. Incubators are places in which several companies are hosted. They are sponsored by somebody, usually it's a government body. And I can tell you that what was done in Israel, we have incubators, and in each incubator we have about 10 companies. It's a big building with about 10 companies and a management. There's an office of management that manages all the every paperwork that has to be done and contact with the government and so on. So they give services to all the companies. The companies have no worry. They have to develop their products. They get services from the office. They get money from the government. It's not big money. They give them about $250,000 for 2 years, $250,000 for 2 years. In 2 years, you have to show feasibility, and you have to have somebody that is willing to invest in you. Either way, get out. Okay? Succeeded, fine. Failed, never mind, start again. You don't have to give the money back if you failed. You do have to give the money back if you are successful, and so from the profit during a period of I don't know how many years, you have to pay back the $250,000 that the government gave you. So, incubators. Number 2, partnership with the VC funds. Now, when I started the class in 1986, there was one venture capital fund in Israel. It was venture, but it was no venture, but it was capital. They didn't invest in risky business. They invest only in things that are sure to succeed. So it was not a venture capital fund. It was a fund. And when I started the class, I invited the chair of that venture capital fund to talk to my students and tell them about how it works. And he came and gave a talk. The next year, there was still one venture capital fund, and he came again and gave a talk. In the third year, I called him again. He said, Danny, enough of that. Take my son. He's an expert in that too. Take my son. I took the son. He gave a talk. In the early 90s, in the end of the 80s and early 90s, the state of Israel did something wise. And I'm telling you this because I encourage everybody to do the same. Government of Israel said, hey, venture capital funds in the world, come invest in Israel. For every $100 million that you put in, we put in $100 million. We take 50% of the risk. Within 2-3 years, there was so much money available for startups, and there were so many startups started to flourish and grow, and many venture capital funds came to Israel. And then the government, after several years, withdrew. you don't need us anymore. And the process continued. Governments can do that. What else can governments do? Form a chief scientist's office in every ministry. The officials of the ministry find it difficult to talk to entrepreneurs. They don't talk the same language. They don't understand the technology. They don't talk the same. We need an interface. That interface is called chief scientist. In Israel, every ministry has a chief scientist. He talks to the entrepreneurs and the technical people. He can also talk to the government. He's the link between the two. So governments can do that. More. Support industrial innovative R&D in startup. And there is one ministry in Israel, here you would call it a department, right? That has a very large budget to support direct new startups. You have to propose, it goes through committees, and the government can support you. And again, the same rule. If you fail, you fail. If you succeed, pay back the money. Okay. And sign binational agreements and support binational funds. So there are several agreements between Israel and the United States for joint projects, and this is very good. And also, in Israel, there is one institute which is very successful. It's called BIRD, B-I-R-D. It's because binational industrial R&D, and with the United States. And that organization does the following. It creates links between Israeli startups, which are really very innovative, and mid-cap American companies that are interested in the product that can fit their product line, and they can sell because they have the market. So the Israelis will make it, and they combine the two. And sometimes the American company will invest and buy part of the Israeli company, so they become real partners. We advocate that. Form and support instruction and advice center for emerging startups. In every city in Israel, we have an office. If you have a startup and you have questions, you can come to this office. They will give you services for free. Who are the advice givers? These are volunteers. Normally, these are entrepreneurs who retired. They don't work there. Either they sold the company or they gave it to their children to run, and they are free, and they're really interested in providing advices to young entrepreneurs, and they do it for free. This is something that they contribute to the society, and they feel very good about it. So, and these are people with a lot of experience. They can really give good advices on different issues. Okay. VC funds. Is it good or bad source of funding? Now, I have a problem with VC funds and the way they operate nowadays. Let me explain. Venture capital funds work the following way. An entrepreneur, but financial entrepreneur, not industrial entrepreneur, turns to rich people with deep pockets and say, hey guys, let me invest your money in companies that I will choose, and I will work in the biomedical field or in the microelectronic field or in the aviation field or whatever. I will concentrate on this. If you believe that the future is there, give me your money. I will invest it for 5 years. In 5 years, you'll get back your money plus profit, hopefully. There is risk, but many people do that. So the venture capital fund will collect so many millions of dollars. They will invest, say, in 10 companies that they choose. They interview the people, they look at the product, and they make wise decisions or not so wise decisions, whatever it is. And let's say that 3 companies of the 10 they invested in do very well. And so there's a lot of money to give to everybody. So what is the problem? The problem is that they give you only 5 years. And they tell you ahead of time, in 5 years, we'll come back and take the money. We will sell you, or find some other way to pay us. You want to buy the company from us? That's great. But we will not be involved in you in 5 years. Now, 5 years is not enough time to succeed in a startup. There's not enough time. We need more time. And so when I talk to venture capital fund managers, when I talk to the manager, I say exactly what I'm telling you. We need more time. We need 10 years. They don't like to hear that because they want a cycle every 5 years, not every 10 years. So I'm telling them that's not very wise, because in 10 years, the 3 companies that succeeded will grow, become much larger. You can become public companies, and you will have a lot of money. So give more time. Another thing I tell them, the people that invested in you, these are people with really deep pockets. So if they gave you $1 million, they have $120 million in the pockets. They don't really need your money. Give them shares in the companies that were successful. Don't sell the companies. Let them grow. Let them grow. It's not good if the company is sold and a large company buys the IPs, fires the employees, and goodbye Columbus. That's not good. We need them to grow. Give more time, or give the investors shares in the companies rather than selling the companies and give them the money. Okay, so I described that. So where should we go to seek funding for our startups? We give the following list to our students. Number 1, strategic partners. Strategic partners is that company, a large company, that is interested in your product. They will invest in you for you to make it. It pays them to invest in you rather than develop it in their company, because you are very aggressive, you are young and active and aggressive. You can develop a product far faster than what they can do. And you have thought about it for years before you went there. They will let you do that. They will not steal it from you. They will let you do that. You become a part of them. If they invest in you, so part of you belong to them. That's great. Strategic partnership is great. We recommend it. Angels. Angels are people with deep pockets who will invest in you because they think that you are wonderful, that you have a great team and your product is good. They will give you money and they will become partners with you for some part of your company. Bootstrapping. Bootstrapping means don't get any money from anybody. Start yourself. In most cases, in the beginning, you don't need any money. But if you need help from other people, let's say that you are a wonderful mechanical engineer, but you need somebody that knows something about electronics, and you need also somebody who knows about computing, right? And you have 2 people who you know, but you don't have money to hire them. Don't hire them. Give them part of your company. Instead, make them partners, okay? And be generous about it. Be generous, because right now your company worth is exactly 0. So be generous about it. And in a few years, if you are successful, you will have enough, they will have enough, everybody will have enough. They will work for you, evenings, weekends, and you can build something together. Last are the venture capital funds, last on my list, that I have mentioned before. So what money we should not use? Is there any money we should not use? Yes. Number 1, never use your own money. You don't have enough. Don't sell your car, don't sell your apartment, your home. Don't do that. Use other people's money. Don't take loans in the banks. This is like you invested. No, don't do that. And number 2, don't take money from relatives or friends. If you want to lose your relatives and friends, take money from them, because you're most likely to fail. In many cases, people fail. And even if you succeed, you took some money from your grandmother, who really can afford it, no question about it. In 2 weeks, she'll call you, "Hello, grandson, how are you doing? Are we getting well with our venture? Grandma, it's just 2 weeks, give me a couple of years." "Oh, really?" Okay, no relatives, no friends. I want to finish my talk, which is exactly 1 hour, by showing you this book. This book is Startup Nation, the name of the book, and it addresses the million-dollar question, how it is that Israel, a country of now 8 million people, only 64 years old, surrounded by enemies, in constant state of war since the founding, with no natural resources. There's nothing to do in the ground in Israel. Produces more startup companies than large, peaceful, and stable nations like Japan, China, India, Korea Canada and the UK. How come we have so many startups? We have thousands upon thousands of startups. And this book addresses that question. And part of my talk, you understood that it is the spirit of entrepreneurship. Let me finish by saying the following. Creating a spirit of entrepreneurship, and I feel that I have a part in creating a spirit of entrepreneurship in Israel, because by now I have 10,000 graduates from my class who are engineers and scientists in the country, and it's a very small country. 10,000 engineers and scientists is a large proportion of the engineers and scientists in the country, who walk about with the bug of entrepreneurship implanted in their minds. And this is a culture-changing phenomenon. But this is not the only thing. You see, in Israel we have mandatory service in the military. You have to be a soldier. Today's army is extremely sophisticated. The tip of technology is there in the military. And many of the soldiers become very, very savvy with modern electronics and modern technology, and they developed in their service software and hardware. And so when they get out, all they have to do is say, oh, you know, we had this application for the drones. Oh, let's have the same application for cars and make it civilian product, and so on and so forth. This is another thing, that service. A third thing is that the students in Israel are older than you guys. They are 4 years older when they start. If you start at the age of 18 or something like that, they start at the age of 22, 23. When they come to the Technion, let me tell you something, there are no bars in the vicinity of the Technion. People don't have time for that. It's a tough school, it's a difficult school. People come to study, and they are grown-ups by now. That adds to that spirit. Thank you very much. Thank you. Let me suggest the following. Those who need to leave, I understand that people need to leave, please leave now, and the rest can stay and ask questions. We'll give you a few minutes to do that.
Yeah. Okay, if you do have a question, just line up behind a mic. There's a microphone right here in the center.
Okay, those who need to leave, please leave fast, and let's not waste time. Okay, so now Q&A. Questions, somebody? Oh, yes. Oh, you have a microphone. Wonderful.
Testing.
Good afternoon. I'm Eliseo de Leon. I'm actually a student in material science and engineering. And I really appreciate the talk that you just gave. And it reminded me of a situation that the United States was in a few years back, where the three major automotive producers were about to fail. And the government stepped in and said, we're not going to let you fail. My thought is this: if they had been allowed to fail, wouldn't that have promoted more entrepreneurial spirit?
So what is the question? Maybe Pat, come to me and
so my
help
question
me.
is,
I have to apologize. I don't hear very well.
Oh.
So Pat will help me. So what is the question? You can tell me. Not to this. Just
Okay. If General Motors had been allowed to fail, would that have encouraged entrepreneurship?
would it encourage entrepreneurship?
Yes. Would it have been a good thing?
GM is so large and important for the United States because it provides so much employment in the United States. So the considerations are not pure, and there is a lot of politics. You can say the same thing about failing banks. Should we support them? Should we not? We, the American government, right, or the American financial system, should we support them or not? It is very difficult for me to answer that question because I do not know all the parameters involved. And in fact, I'm glad that GM was not allowed to fail, and now they do much better. It was a wake-up call for GM. Hey guys, you have competition. Did you hear about China and Japan and Korea? Yeah, they make cars, you know. And so it was a wake-up call, and I think that they learned the lesson. So eventually, it seems to have been a good decision. But I cannot comment on that. I don't have the details. I'm sorry. Other questions?
Thank you.
Okay.
Good afternoon. I would like to know how you define market economy as a requirement for successful technological entrepreneurship.
Free market
For
economy.
example,
Free market economy?
free market economy. For
Ah.
example, there should be some extent of state regulation.
Yes.
To what extent?
Definitely. But the regulations should regulate the banking system mainly, so that they will not be able to run wild as they did. But free market economy, meaning that the ports are free to export and import whatever you want, unless it has some defense restrictions. Of course, they should be imposed. But other than that, free economy meaning money, transfer of money, which is free, transfer of goods, which is free in both directions, meaning that Americans, or the United States, should be able to invest around the world, and the foreigners should be able to invest in the United States. And these are some of the parameters that build a free market economy. You're from Russia? Yes, and they don't have free market economy. They are starting to have free market economy.
Yeah, I would agree that Russia doesn't have free market economy in this sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you.
They have corruption too. That's a big problem there.
This
You
is
know
also
that.
true.
Okay, more. Yes.
Hello, Dr. Shetman. I'm an undergraduate, Bradley Williams, in the Material Science Department here. I've noticed in some of my senior classes, like just looking at research projects here at the Iowa State Department and my internship at Lawrence Berkeley Lab, I see a lot of research projects that go on, a paper's written and something winds up on the shelf, or like dust collects and nobody looks at it. And I've wondered if you have ideas, like how do we make that connection where fundamental research at university then gets catalyzed or turns into like a startup? Or I see things in the tech transfer department here at Iowa State, and I want to be that person. I want to be that connection between industry, but I want to see how do we make those ideas grow from research.
So the question is basically how can you benefit from research done in universities to help building startups and industry, right? Application, right? Okay, so here is my advice, and it's not a complete answer. Number one, give a fair share to the inventor. Okay? The people that invent something should be motivated to do that. And you should tell them, and here in Iowa State we do that, before you publish, come to us and tell us about the application that you think you may have to your discovery or to your development. And if so, we will decide to write a patent on this, and then you can publish. Okay? I have done it in Iowa State. We send a patent for. So that's one way of doing it. So give fair share to the inventor. So that means that he will have motivation. Motivation. Don't forget this word, motivation, to collaborate with the system, and then create a body that will do the transfer, that will write the patent and will do that, and we have it in Iowa State. So that's about what I can think about now. Thank you. Yes.
Good afternoon. My name is Hugo Villegas. My question is addressed regarding the policies of nations regarding the protecting the entrepreneur rather than the capital. For example, if the entrepreneur fails in the business, besides failing, he has also to pay a lot of money. And usually the government is protecting the bank in order to recover that money. Then the entrepreneur is totally destroyed. In this case, what prevails is the capital over the human. So what should be the right incentives to regarding policies of the nation to protect people rather than the capital?
Okay, I didn't hear all you said, but do you understand the question right? That the question is, how do we put people first and not the capital? Is that the point?
Yeah, that's right.
Okay, so you want me to decide between capitalism and communism, or?
No.
No. Okay.
No, rather it's like
My decision
to
is
the well-being of the society.
Okay, can you please explain me what the question is?
Well, to my understanding, it is how do you balance the needs of society so that the entrepreneur is more protected? In some societies, I think he is saying that the entrepreneur puts everything at risk.
Yeah. Okay, so how do you protect the entrepreneur from well, so if you have a if you live in a Western civilized country, industrial country, you are more or less protected by law, and if the law can be enforced, then you are protected. That doesn't mean that you can go to a bank and borrow money and never return it. This is not a good practice, and they will put you in jail for that. But the laws in every country should protect everybody and should protect also the entrepreneurs. But the question is from what? Is it to protect them from corrupt organizations or from corrupt system? In countries that have corrupt organization, corrupt system, it doesn't work. It cannot work. If somebody can come to your company and say, I like your company, and takes it, and the law doesn't protect you, that's not good. So, it's a set of rules and the laws that are made not only for the law-obedient people, but made for everybody. And then you have a chance. I hope I answer your question. It was a vague question and a vague answer. Next, please.
Hi, my name is Matt Hawkins. My question is, in the United States, our economy, we seem to like or end up doing a lot of bubbles, dot-com bubble, housing bubble. So the companies involved in that often don't see it coming. How do you say, especially in the United States, we want all sorts of entrepreneurs, how do we get them to avoid contributing to that sort of a problem?
Mm-hmm. Okay, so in all types of bubbles, be it the construction housing bubble or the dot-com bubble and such, the writing is on the wall long time before the bubble bursts. You should read the writing on the wall, and don't behave like herds. Just figure out your opinion. What is your opinion about what's going on? So. Sometimes it's difficult to analyze. For instance, the prices of housing on the West Coast and the East Coast are skyrocketing. Not here, but go to California, go to New York, Boston, D.C. area. The price is very high. So is it a bubble? Okay, it's a good question, whether it's a bubble or not. So judgment, on your part, reading the newspapers, understanding what's going on there, is the rule. The point is that sometimes the legislation is not there to protect us from such bubbles, and that should be corrected by governments. Next, please.
Hi, my name is Keisuke. I'm from Japan. I'm a freshman, major in physics. And what do you suggest undergraduate to do while we are while we are in university?
At this stage of your career?
Sorry?
At this stage of your career, what to do now?
What do you suggest us to do while we are in university to be a technological entrepreneurs?
Okay, what to do at this stage of your career? What do you study?
Physics.
Physics. Okay, wonderful. You are undergraduate?
Yeah, freshman here.
You are?
Freshman here. Yeah.
For first year in physics. Okay, so what you should do now is the following, my suggestion. Number one, be a very good student.
Okay.
And so if you didn't think about it, start now. Be a good student. Number two, if you want to become an entrepreneur, choose something that you think at this point is a good idea and learn enough physics to support that idea. I assume it's in physics, not necessarily. So today, the information is available to everybody, and even if they don't give you, let's say that you want to do something with nonlinear optics, and they don't teach you yet nonlinear optics, but you can become an expert on that on your own, very quickly. Just follow the literature, read the papers, and you become an expert. And if you become an expert in something, you have a good chance to succeed in opening a startup in that field of expertise. And even now, as a young student that just started physics, you can start now. Think about entrepreneurship. Make it a project. And you know that you're not going to do it in the next 5 to 10 years. But if it is in your mind, eventually you will do it. So start to become an expert in something that you think is a good idea. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you all.